Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Included series. My name is Dana Wilson, and I'm the CEO and founder of CHIP, which stands for Changing How Individuals Prosper. CHIP is a digital platform connecting individuals like you to Black and Latinx financial professionals. This series was started to give people of color a chance to tell our own stories and thoughts around wealth. We hope to demystify stereotypes that still plague many of our communities, regardless of economic status. So sit back, relax, and let's talk money.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Included series. I am so excited, as always, to bring my next guest in and, of course, talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is wine, which we want to really unpack a lot of this evening. Among many other things, kind of the changing tide within the wine industry and how that is also directly making more access and availability to people of color, and how we're able to really dive our feet deeper into being more of the respondents of that, right? And being more inclusive and getting more of a deeper introduction to that industry. So I'm happy to bring in Kristen Gardner, who is the Vice President of Client Coverage Group, also the co-founder of RichWine and the president of VinGo Tours. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Dana.
Yeah, of course. Welcome. So we get to talk about a multitude of all of my favorite topics tonight. So money, wine, and I mean, there's really nothing that gets better than that.
It's a little fun on both sides of the coin. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like to some degree we'll have to unpack that Netflix movie Uncorked, right? Or Corked, and talk about really how that has also had an impact in finally having some representation in that industry, in being able to reap the benefits and what that looks like for a lot of us who, you know, for somewhat have always been consumers to some degree and not really the ones behind the actual wealth that comes with that. So yeah, so please, tell us a little bit about your personal financial journey and really what money means to you, and kind of those first moments of when you really felt like you fell in love with it and understood the power it had and impact on your life.
Absolutely. So I would say, so I'm 30 years old. I've been working since I was 15. Sometimes I attribute that to the Capricorn in me. Like I felt like I understood the value of a dollar at a very early age. That being said, I was intentional about getting a job at 15 to purchase all the extra things I wanted. I knew what jeans I wanted. I knew, like, I didn't want to have to think about getting that DVD or CD, back when we cared about those things at the time. So I'd work to get all of the extra things that were important to me, like as a high schooler. And then obviously, there's time to get a vehicle. Okay, parents get your car, you get to put gas in the car. Or having extra money in college, that was also important because when was I in school? Like 2008 to 2012, I think I had an extra $50 a week, which I'm thankful for. But at the same time, I remember that Chick-fil-A sandwich being like $2.13 when I didn't want to eat, like in the past. So you do the math, and then 50-cent shots on Thursday. So there was a lot to work with, like in a given week. But one thing I never had a problem doing was supplementing. And that meant finding creative ways to work. I'm not saying that I absolutely enjoy working, but I will say that I've found some things that help me pass the time that I enjoy. And so, instead of working at Best Buy or at the amusement park that was like right up the street from my parents' house, I became a babysitter. I love kids. I had to take care of kids for a couple of hours, in that 4 to 6 p.m. window between, when the parents came home, and did small admin things like that. And so what I'm building up and saying is, like, from 15 to graduation, like, there was some form of additional income that I had. And then coupled with the fact that, you graduate college, like, what am I going to do? I need like a real world salary. What does that look like? I'm automatically entry level. Okay, now what does that look like? I knew I had to do something, and I needed to be more practical about that. And so, I was a foreign affairs, sociology major, minor at University of Virginia, and I had zero interest in going into banking or working in a financial institution. Like if you asked me at the time, I was like, oh, I'm gonna take like some time off and like travel the world and like,
Yeah, I think that's how my journey ended up, and I don't know what happened from there. It's like a blur.
It's a blur. It's an absolute blur. But I say that to say like the practical side of me kicked in, especially 6 months later. Sally Mae says, hey, your student loans are due. So, whether you have a job or not, they're due. So I said, you know what? I was cool with applying to like a global investment bank because a mentor of mine, still a really good friend of mine, told me that not everyone with a finance degree works there. Otherwise, it would be groupthink. So they have people of all backgrounds like working there. And at that point, I applied and landed the job. I've been at the same firm for the past almost like 8 years, and I've stuck with it because of mainly lifestyle stuff. And I have to say, I'm one of those people who works very hard and works very diligently because I want to maintain a certain lifestyle for myself. And that's been my motivation. That's when I realized what a dollar means to me, what money means to me. So,
yeah, it's like the evolution of kind of that next step, right? It's like when we're younger, it's like it's for that moment in time and what that money means in that moment and finding things that we like to do. And yeah, babysitting was definitely the top list of jobs for a lot of us that we could, also enjoy doing, and also to some degree not have to do a whole lot of work, right? It wasn't, super demanding or taxing, and yet we were able to make at least, quite a bit of money to put away. And what would you say, so from your time of kind of evolving with your career and also the money that comes with that, how was that transition into really starting your business and how you were able to leverage a lot of the skill set that you learned or still continuing to learn in your role working at the institution and then transitioning that into your business? And then also, how'd you get into the wine industry?
Right, absolutely. So to answer the first part of that, going from analyst to associate to vice president, you witness the financial jumps that happen year over year. And sometimes if you look back and you track your salary over time and your bonus over time, things really do compound. And I think it's a patience game. And a lot of folks always say it's a marathon and not a sprint. Like you are, you come out of undergrad and you start a job. If you are entry level, you're going to get entry level pay. And if there's any sort of meritocracy element to the job that you're doing, hopefully there's a significant bonus incentive that comes with that after you've proven you're going to be here for some time and you're dedicated to what you do and you're accurate and you perform well, all of those things that people look for in a good employee. So once I realized that, I would say at year 3.
It's like the point at where we know we have to behave.
Exactly. It's it's never immediate. Once I realized that at year 3, I was like, okay, fine. All right, cool. I'll do this. I'll continue to do this. And then you go from a period of I have exactly what I need to live, and I do not need to deviate from this plan or spend more or put myself in any jeopardy, if you will, and maybe travel twice a year. And then with a little bit of patience, you get to the point where all right, maybe I can travel 2 or 3 times a year, in associate years, and keep it going. But the name of the game for me that I played was how can I live off that associate salary going forward, once you got to a good place. And I think if you play that game with yourself, the first 2 years of doing that, as you're still getting more senior, as you're still making more money, that will free up a lot of cash. You'll look at the bank later, you look at your savings account later, and you're nah, a lot more to do than I thought I did. And this is after maximize, try to max up your retirement and invest in an IRA and maybe open a managed brokerage account and get some extra funds. Pay yourself first has always been my motto. And in doing that, that's fast forward to 2017. I was able to partner with one of my line sisters and start VinGo Tours, which was my first company that we built to basically do wine and beer tours for folks around Virginia. And all of that was self-funded. It was self-funded because I was adamant on not taking out another loan or any loan until my student loans were paid down. So.
No, that's awesome. And I think it's something to think about too, right? Because a lot of us always feel like, hey, I need to jump on this opportunity now, but there's really no plan. Number one, there's sometimes no plan for the business and the strategy behind it and go to market and all those things too. But then there's also the financial piece of it too that says, hey, there is some sort of due diligence you need to do and some self-checking that you have to do for yourself. And it's like, let me do this before it makes sense for me to do this next thing. So I'm not putting myself into more, financial pit holes or damage where it's just like, hey, I got to jump on this opportunity. And so what about everything else? And it's like, yeah, that might sound great right now in this moment, in this second, right. But it's like when you get that first bill in the mail and you're like, man, now I have this, and now I'm having to struggle to make decisions personally, and that now it might be affecting my business.
Exactly. Yes, and sticking with that, kind of, it helped me, learn the mistakes that I went through with like VinGo in terms of like not charging enough, like having to change up the pricing models, because you toy with the idea of saying, I have this business, I charge a good rate, like it's not my full-time job, so I don't need to like make a massive amount of money off of it. It needs to pay for itself and be a little bit profitable, so it's worth doing, so you can pay the drivers and all of that good stuff. But it's kind of like that first like trial and error moment where you really do have to be patient with yourself, and it's like playing Monopoly but with your own money, and then you're like, I'm not doing that, but I don't know if I'll do this, and like you become able to pivot like left, right, front, and center. Like I can make decisions very quickly now. Why? Because like my funds are on the table, and so one of the things that really helped me was reading the Lean Startup. Which deep dives, and I think it's like the Toyota car model, just kind of like, making your business as lean as possible, like spend money when you're receiving money. Otherwise, it's kind of like pay for your overhead, keep things going, make sure that structure is as lean as possible. Like, do you need full-time employees, or can you contract the work when you absolutely need the work to be done? These are things to think about, like while you're structuring a business or startup, or, whatever it is that you're focusing on. And so everything I learned with VinGo, and VinGo right now is tabled because of the pandemic. It's a family-owned business, and we're not driving people around, unfortunately, right now. But we hope to reopen our doors like once the health issues kind of get more in order. But I will say like that permitted time and space and all the to open RichWine RBA, which is like the wine company that we're focused on right now. And I've opened that with one of my best friends from home. So
yes, and please show some marketing.
I keep wine on me. It's in the car. It's not open, I'm following rules, but I do have a bottle here. This is a Paleo Caricio. It's
that looks great.
Great. Yeah, it's a Greek orange wine. And orange wine is basically like the same grape as white wines. It just needs skin contact. So after it goes through the entire like maturation, like winemaking process, it has a bit more skin contact. So if you imagine peeling the skin off of a grape, like the flesh of it is pressed. And then the juice that's pressed gets reintroduced back onto the skin, and this is like a pretty orange color. And I wanted to highlight this one because our colors are orange and white. So our company is RichWine RBA, and so we specialize in natural, organic, biodynamic wines, which means grapes that are grown without clean farmed grapes, without pesticides, herbicides, and minimal sulfur and sulfites used for the production and for growth. Just wine that makes you feel good. So that's been like the latest project, the biggest project. Also self-funded again, but this time around we did something different. To a larger scale, and did a lot of crowdfunding and hosting like events like for like our friends to say, hey, pay for this ticket, we'll give you food and wine for like 2 hours and share what we're doing. And people have been super supportive from that regard to help us like get a startup, like together. The rest we added to it. We do not have any investors. We are, moving along as we go off of our sales and off of what we can put into the business on our own. So it's growing organically like the wine that we sell. So
no, that's awesome. And a great marketing plug, by the way. And I think it's fantastic, right? And it's a real great evolution to kind of be able to do that in a self-funding space and being mindful of, who you're bringing to the table from an investor perspective, who's on your cap table, and how that really affects the decisions that you're able to make inside of your business and just kind of moving forward. And how was that transition in, pivoting to not necessarily a new space, but kind of diving deeper into more, I guess, product management versus, kind of doing the tours and things on the back end where you're bringing people to probably other people's spaces. And now you kind of have your own product to launch and sort of take care of.
Absolutely. So I had to shift a bit because at first I was selling a service, which to me, logistically is a lot easier than selling a product. Because we cannot manipulate the product. The product is what it is. We do tastings with reps. We like the wine. We say we hope other people like the wine. Even if we don't like the wine, we like to add the diversity to, our book of sale. And so at this point, we have about, I think it's about 80-ish labels in rotation that's available for purchase, like online.
So note to self, I have 80.
80
things to try. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, but yeah, you have about 80 wines to try, and I say all that to say, like, we have to get the product diversification right. We have to get price points right. We have to make sure that like there's a substantial like 15 and under table for like the novice or for folks who are going to buy in bulk for like a party or are being exploratory with wine. We have to have like a nice selection of wine for like events or for gift giving. So we've kind of had to chart out very intentionally what it is we're going to bring to the table and what we're going to have and how much of it we're going to have, and play a guessing game with our community, which is, Richmond City locally, but we also ship and deliver to all of Virginia in DC. So it's one of those things where we're building our portfolio based on what people like, also new labels, and hopefully securing some more one-to-one distributor relationships, which means some of the wine that you'll see on our site, eventually that'll turn in the next 3 months to be like a lot of the wine that you see on site is only sold through us. So to make it a bit more unique. So, but there's a lot of like proving of yourself, like in the industry, to get those type of deals, but also making sure that we have our eye on just the appropriate sales management. And this is like month 2 of us being on our own. The business has been open for, it'll be a year, 11/15 November, but 2 months in our own space, and just kind of figuring out what our audience likes.
No, that's awesome. And, congratulations. I mean, it's no small feat to pivot, and to pivot into a product is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
You're dealing with stuff that you have to, for the most part, get out, right? Like you can't hold on to stuff forever, particularly wine. You want to make sure it's moving and it's selling and people are enjoying it and it's getting the recognition it deserves, right? How is it within the industry, right? So there was this, Netflix movie came out. I think I said Uncorked, but I think it's called Corked. Was it Uncorked?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I was right.
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember exactly. But now I feel like outside of just, drinking wine and being, our own kind of connoisseurs of wine as people of color, now we're delving more into the industry and understanding that this is a space that we can become wealthy in, that we belong in, that we can find success in. And what have you found just kind of now throwing yourself even deeper into the industry as you put a label and your brand behind, and this is, you're a woman of color building this business in the industry, and how has that been?
Yeah, so I would say, we did some research in terms of, what minority owned or minority made labels if we can sell back retail and print from distributors. And this is one that is even given to distributors to sell, because some of it, a lot of it is small batch that is made only at the property, and you can go to the property to receive it. I think I did, this was like earlier this year, I think there were like 96 labels. Now this is like per bottle. across all the Black winemakers in the U.S. that's in rotation.
Wow.
There's like over 1,000 different varietals to even begin with, but like that's such a finite number of wine in circulation right now, and wine that has been in circulation right now. And I think like what I'm saying is there's so much opportunity. If you have land and if you want to grow grapes, it's about like a 5-year process, to get like an actual vineyard like up and running. And then like there's a lot of math behind it when you start to see profit. But like even if you want to just test it leisurely and see if grapes will grow on your property, that's a space because people are constantly looking for more land to grow grapes. So you can easily lease property that you don't have to work on or create a business plan for and give it back to folks who are, looking for more space to grow the grapes in like a cool area, et cetera, and have more ownership that way. If you want to get into distribution, which is like a really cool side of things, hosting wine, like you've got space to like run a warehouse, or if you want to be on the sales side of it, become a rep, learn your wine that you sell from your distributor, meet with all of the retailers, figure out how to supply like their businesses, constantly bring them new things and like do the tastings. Like that's what we do a lot of the time over the course of the week. That's another fun way. Or if you have an appetite for online retail, like that's what we do, or turnkey retail, like that's another way to get people going, become a part of the industry. And I think there's a lot of room, a lot of space and opportunity for like Black bodies to get involved in the industry. I think right now it's still less than like, I don't even want to say it's not 2% involvement across the board, no matter what field or that you sit in related to wine. So there's plenty of opportunity and there's plenty of scholarships to help folks study for their certifications. To become a SOM, if you'd like to be a SOM, that's more of the service expertise. Or you could get your so-called WSET training, which is like the wine education. You take like your master exam and become a master of wine. And that's like all of the practical knowledge you need to, run a business or like be a GM of a vineyard or whatever you would like to do with that education you can. So.
No, that's awesome. And I think that's a really good point too. It's like, as we're just, kind of unpacking the wine industry in general and all the different things that you could do. But when you're going back to the point of owning land and being able to own that land and then also develop a business on top of that, that can continue to build wealth, right? So that land is extremely important. And, there's a ton of stuff that's available and for sale that's popping up where you have either communities coming together or individuals just going up and buying land. And now it's a sense of, okay, you're buying it. Now, what can you actually do on it? Or what can you really explore and kind of break it up and find strategic ways to do that? And this seems like a very viable opportunity to just kind of stick your foot in and just see what happens, right? It's like, it's like, what if it works out?
Hey, then it works. Then you're in a great place. And even if it doesn't work out, you can pivot and do something else. Because my thing I always say is like, at least I tried it. I didn't say it was going to work like a long time, but I did try. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like once you make that pivot, you make that pivot and you kind of go with it and see where it kind of starts, open up from there. So I know you said you have a co-founder in this business, in this venture. So how is that for both of you kind of walking through this journey and kind of figuring out the business sense around partnership and other people you potentially plan to bring into the business? And also just kind of, as you start to grow, is there other spaces that you want to, dive into?
Absolutely. So Lance is my business partner, and we have a great working relationship. Like I said, we've been friends for a very long time. He has the wine background, so he sold wine for Frederick Wildman in New York for a few years. Helped open up 2 wine shops, Bednos and Liquid Assets in Bed-Stuy, and or Wino and liquid assets in Bed-Stuy. And then from there, wanted to do, we had the dream to open up like a Spanish, like tapas bar, so Spanish wine, tapas, etc. Like that would be like in Brooklyn. But then,
I'm going to champion that, by the way. So whenever you want to circle back to that.
So going back, but it's definitely still in the notebook. Yeah, like in the notebook of things that I need.
Yes.
So he runs our order book, manages all the tastings with reps, runs the order book, manages inventory, hunts like for new wine for us to bring in, new wine for us to taste, and manages that full suite of like what you see available to you online. On my side of things, I am looking at the finances, like the taxes in the back, like preparing us for all of like the financial elements that we need to face, like quarterly, monthly, making sure we're meeting like our sales goals. Are we in a place to hire? Are we not? Are we contracting folks? Are we not? So I have more of a financial lens over the scope of the business and just pacing, making sure we're pacing well with that. As well as like running the event side of things. And that's what we do together because we've been doing a lot of virtual tastings, which has been so much fun. For an hour, we did our largest one yet, which was with University of Virginia for, I think we had 100 people online.
Oh, wow.
So we made these like little tasting kits of like a box of like 5 wines, sent them out and walked people through each wine and gave them notes and everything, pairing notes, gastro notes, etc. And super interactive. So, I'm running with event stuff on that side of things, and also our corporate relationships and mentor elements, and just kind of building our A team of folks that we need to help us like process, sustain, and stay in compliance. But and then together, we're very good at picking up where one another is left off, or like we have to pivot because our schedules are very different. Like I'm still full time, and then I pick up wine in the background in the evening. So sometimes you might see me delivering wine to your door, or you might see me at FedEx getting wine to your home. We do those things like together. The goal is to knock it out like every day. So there's good balance there.
No, that's great. And it's like, that's part of the business, right? Where you're circulating hats really all the time. It's like every hour there's something that's going on that you might have to jump in and do. And yeah, that's just kind of a part of being on a team, being a founder, and kind of going through that entire startup experience. And like the operations and the financial part, I feel like is the one thing that people just don't ever want to talk about, right? It's like everyone wants to focus on the cool aspects of their business, which is the marketing, kind of talking to people, maybe it's business development. But when it comes through the strategic operations and the financial piece of it, it's just like, like that's not really the fun and sexy part. But in actuality, it's like, to your point, that really is the fun and sexy part of where you need to be spending a lot of your time, because numbers really feed back into everything else that you can continue to do for your business and really make it even more fun, right? When you're seeing things come in, or, you're kind of seeing the evolution of where you're going through the numbers.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is like, stay organized from the beginning. It is tedious. It is annoying. Like it is everything you can imagine, but like all of those receipts, stay organized from the beginning. And that way, if you need to hand it to, a tax person or a CPA, whatever, it's already organized. You don't have to sit down one by one and be like, oh, I think that was for this, or et cetera, et cetera. Like doing things in real time has made it significantly easier. But these are the things that I learned between, like the VinGo transition to like RichWine, when building this brand. So it's kind of like do things up front immediately, and you'll save yourself a lot of pain later in terms of like having to reconcile things. No one likes reconciliation reports. I don't care who you are in whatever business, whether you own it or not, no one likes them. So you just might as well make it easy on yourself.
Exactly. It's like no part of trying to fix things is fun, right? It's like just take the time, take the weekend to strategize as much as you can. For jumping headfirst into every piece of it, and honing in on a lot of those innate skills that you learn. Do you think, as you were growing up and maybe had conversations with family about money, around finance, about some sort of, strategy around that, do you think that had a really good impact now that you kind of look back on how you've been able to structure your finances personally, and then also kind of your overall thought process for building the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, I I was raised like village style. Like my mom had me very young at 22, and I was with my mom or either my grandparents at the time. So I feel like I had like three people who were constantly there. And so me being the only child, like I didn't have to, I didn't have to worry about anything. Like things just kind of like happened. Like I don't remember like not, you know what I mean, like getting something or like needing something. But I also was kind of raised outdoors, so I wasn't really like around like, oh, I need this Barbie doll or I need this. Like at most, I really remember screaming about. I remember like, the Barbie car came on. I absolutely needed that, and then Beauty and the Beast on VHS. So it was like simple things that I caught a whiff of, maybe on a commercial or something that I found out that I needed. But other than that, like I just remember things flowing, coming up. But it wasn't intentional conversations around money that I had. My grandfather had like a very leisurely attitude around it. And he was just kind of like, oh, yeah, it's there, or sometimes it's not. You just got to decide if you want it to be there or if you don't want it to be there, like type thing. And so, I kind of like, all right, well, yeah, it's kind of cool. So it actually wasn't a big deal to me until I started working. And then I was like, I put in all of these hours for this amount of pay. And I still only have, I think it was like maybe like $300 or $400 at the end of the week. And I was like, this is terrible. Like, this, you know what I mean? So you kind of like start backing in. And I'm kind of I was one of those kids where like I can get to conclusions on my own, very quickly, especially when it's like, I like this or I don't like this. But that's when I realized I was like, I think I'm going to care about this a lot more than I've been weird to care about it. And I ended up doing so, which is kind of made me politely frugal, if you would. And that's kind of just stuck with me, especially when you have to like work and just kind of like if you want to spend certain money, especially when I became like a teenager and in college, if you want the extra money to spend, you need to go get it.
Right.
And you take a look at the time value of that, and it's like, how much do I really want to be out here getting it? Well, not too much, but I also don't want it to go out the door when I come home like the next day, like immediately, and I'm like back at square one. So I feel like that balance was kind of like self-taught, if you will, but also like reinforced when I would start to have conversations about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's just like now that you have it and you actually have it coming in, it's like, all that time you put into getting it throughout whatever it is your job is doing, and then to see it continuously walk out, some to our own demise, and then sometimes of circumstance. It's just like, yeah, like let me work on everything, making much better.
Hold on to this.
So, maybe, the goal this time is to make it last a week, and then a week becomes a month, and then a month is like 6, and then a year, right? It's also, giving yourself grace to get to those points if that's not that immediate or kind of innately built into you. But it's just like, yeah, once you see it, you really do not want it to go anywhere. It's almost like you're holding it so tight. It's like, you want me to spend $1. Why? Like, you need to write me a dissertation as to why this is so important of a purchase.
And to be honest, like, I mean, like my friends are going to laugh that I'm actually admitting this, but I would monetize my time. Like, like you kind of have about 3 to 4 times a day. I'll read your paper. Like, I'll make sure you don't have grammatical errors. Okay. If I'm spending time on this, you're gonna have to pay me to like, all right, and let you know if you're in a good direction, or planning trips. Like I love to plan trips. It's something that I do, and like if you're going with me on this trip, like I will not charge you to plan it. But like I've been hit up sometimes like, hey, can you help me like front to back? I'm like, I'm not even going, but that's okay. But my time has to be compensated for, because you just don't have a lot of it, and it's not like exorbitant, but I'm like, it's been $50, like I can literally get you an itinerary to a place that like I've never been before, but like we can go from there. And I think it became like a running joke, but it's also kind of, I think it's a fair ask. Like, don't be afraid to kind of monetize your time, especially if you're doing something repeatedly for folks, because there's an element of like friendship, like, yeah, absolutely do. It's like, I'll look out, whatever. But if it's like better things, like, ooh, you might need to think about how you can turn it into a little side hustle for yourself. So people know that they can come to you for the product, but just know like they might have to throw you like $20.
Yeah, seriously. It's like providing that value, because after a while it's just like, no, I don't know all of the places that you can here, and it's going to take me longer than 10 minutes to figure that out, which now has, impeached on a part of my day, right? So now you're kind of into things that I would normally be allocating this time to do something that's probably a little bit more beneficial to my time outside of helping you plan this entire, 6-month trip.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. I don't think we do a good enough job of saying, hey, yeah, we're cool. I don't mind doing this. But if you're really expecting something, then yeah, hey, I'm going to have to, charge you for that. And yeah, we should absolutely be okay with saying that, even to our friends. Like, that's a simple conversation to have.
Absolutely. For like a hearty product, like a really good product, if you're producing, I think it's like a fair ask from scratch.
Right. It's like if everyone says, oh, hey, yeah, let me try some wine. Well, how many times are you going to try it? You've actually drank it. Right? It's just like, right, like just buy a bottle. Let's just right. There is no such thing as trying within the business. How do you feel overall, since you are in the financial industry as well? Like, how do you think that we're doing as far as like really making sure that people of color feel more included in this industry, and that they understand really what they're able to do as far as their financial power, so to speak?
So what I've seen is that I think we do a good job of attracting talent across financial services. I think we need to do a better job of retaining talent across financial services. The culture can be a little hard. It can be intense. It is not like, especially you come out of undergrad, it's not like undergrad. Like, you need to come in, you need to show up on time, you need to perform, you need to outperform. If there's like a little bit of like a, I hate to say it, but like robotic nature about you, turn it on. So
right, like this is the one time in the one industry where that's a good thing.
Exactly. And you really do have to decide if that is where you want to be. I think there is a place and space for people of color, especially Black people, to have successful careers. But I don't think it's without folks like having senior leadership that is a reflection of you, and senior leadership that reports, like not reports, but supports you on your journey. And that's even from like, senior analysts talking to like a new analyst, like welcoming them to whatever firm you're at, or making sure like if a bunch of people, hey, you should meet this person, like getting them connected immediately. I recognize like I onboarded into a smaller satellite office like out in Salt Lake City for my firm, and I had that immediately. Like, I was a new face, and everyone around was kind of like, hey, who are you? All right, set up some time. Let's chat. Let's get together. Let's do this X, Y, Z. So it's just like we do have to do a better job of embracing one another. And I do not think, I don't think like the corporate title should matter. If you get super senior, it's like that's even more reason for you to reach back and like invite people into your office and have these conversations. And I'd like to see more of that. And that way we can see more of us in financial services long term, for a long time, and just kind of like building that, generational wealth, like stability, or even if it's not for forever, like you can at least have, I'm sure, the lifestyle that you'd want to have, or think you'd want to have for a period of time if you stick with it, and perform well.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a big difference from what you see, right? So it's like, if I'm not seeing anyone at that level that looks like me, well, why am I wasting my time here when I'm never going to get to that place? Because you obviously don't hire in that space, right? So it's like, I'm kind of capped right here. And now this is a point where it's like, I need to make a decision if I'm okay with this, or do I need to start looking elsewhere to find those opportunities, or where I see people who do reflect in those executive leadership roles and in that senior, C-suite, where, we're seeing how that does have an effect, not just on people who work in the industry, but people who just want to utilize the services from a consumer standpoint, right? It's like we're constantly looked at in a certain way. And now it's like we have to have that reflection all the way up, right? It's like it has to kind of travel so that everyone is kind of included or feels more of an inclusive space.
Exactly. And another point to look at, it's like, if you do not see your reflection, like there's plenty of organizations out there that have like mentorship opportunity, like, hit some people up on LinkedIn. It may be worth paying for premium for like a month or two, and just so you can message people and say, hey, I'm over here, but like, I'd like to talk to you about your career, people like that. And I think people generally tend to look out, but also be okay with being the first. All right.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with being the first person, like in this new team or this new organization that is like, the only like representation, like, of your community there. And just, that could be a fun angle to just stand on your, on your own and say like, let me see how far I can go. Cause I definitely shake some things up and, leave my mark.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point too. It's like at some point, like someone has to be the first and someone has to get there. And then it's like, hey, once you let us in, I mean, like that's your bad. Like we're here. Yeah. And you kind of have to come in with that agenda of like, okay, well now I'm going to source out my people because I'm here and now I have the ability to do so. And to some extent, you almost, you don't know what you just kind of opened up in a good way, which is now being able to have that funnel inside, which is a fantastic place and how we really continue to reach back. And what would be your advice for people who are looking to not only just kind of get into the financial industry, but really also getting to explore the new wine industry? Because there's so much opportunity there in a lot of different ways. What are kind of like those maybe 2 or 3 steps that kind of make that transition in, or what they should think about?
Yeah, absolutely. If you enjoy just going to tasting rooms and learning about wine, I think there's a lot of opportunity to be part-time at tasting rooms. Like, this is like my pre-COVID, to be part-time at tasting rooms, because like they want to grow and like they want more people to come out and taste their wines, but like they might need someone there 9 to 12 or, or 12 to 4, like on a Sunday or Saturday to like help people walk through the tasting. And that's a great way to learn about it and see how involved you want to be in the industry. And these are like light touches. The second part of that, like if you have a wine that you absolutely love, if you're part of the membership, or if you're not, like, Instagram right now is a very powerful tool. Like people are out, like, posting, but you feel free to DM like the winemaker or the property and say, hey, look, I know it's your harvest season and I know you probably handpick. A lot of folks still handpick their grapes. Like they just need people to come out there and like go grape by grape. Volunteer some time. If you have a week off, it could be a very fun vacation for you, just to like see if you want to go into like the more agricultural side of the industry, or retail. Like how much fun is it to walk into a wine shop and like you ask a person, they're waiting for you to ask them for a wine suggestion because it's that much fun to talk about. Like I wait behind my computer and I'm like, well, I hope somebody needs some help picking some wine today, so we can talk about the new things that we have. Like people are waiting for stuff like that. So pick their brains and say like, hey, can I come by and like, hang out or like observe for like an hour or two, like on Saturdays? Like these are good ways to test whether or not like how involved you actually want to be. We are talking about grapes, and there's tons of varietals. Like I said, there's tons of different farming practices, blends out there. There's a lot to learn. So I feel like no matter where you insert yourself is like, it's going to just pay dividends, and it's up to you how much you want to take in.
No, that's awesome, man. I feel like I want to expand my my understanding and knowledge. I feel like there's so much to the industry that we just don't really think about. It's like we're always just focused on the end result, which is the wine. Maybe it's the bottle and the packaging, but it's like it's so much deeper and all the smaller intricacies of the industry and how to really get involved in there, even if it just happens to be a side project or that side project turns into a very viable business and almost a clear opportunity for wealth. So thank you for kind of jumping in and explaining that and, continuing to be another pioneer in this space. So I'm looking forward to ordering up.
Yeah, let us know.
Now that I took my notes on all the 80 things that I need to try,
That's
definitely we'll be doing that and taking advantage of that path. So
appreciate it.
I want to move into one of my favorite parts, which is kind of our little rapid fire. So I'm always curious to see how people answer these questions. So we'll jump into some of these.
Okay.
Let's see here. This is always a fun one. So what is the one item you regret spending money on?
I bought this, the first time I went to South Africa, I purchased a plane ticket for $2,000. Did not need to do it because now you can get to South Africa for $585. It ended up happening the following year when Travel Noir put Cape Town on the map, and then so many people were buying these flights. The flight became like I think I looked, it was like $989 the following year, like same time. I regret spending $2K.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's like once things become popular and how the price drops is definitely frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. What does financial independence mean to you?
Financial independence means just comfort and not having to think or go back to a notebook to figure out, what move you can make every single time. I've always said I don't need an absolute ton of money, but once I get to the place where I can just, all right, cool, yeah, that's cool. If I want this, I don't know, $300 or even $3,000 coffee machine. Think about how much money you spend in coffee a year.
Mm-hmm.
Buy it and not think about it and keep moving on. That's it. So we're gonna get there because I'm claiming it. But yeah, that's
manifesting,
exactly.
Destiny, all of that stuff, putting it into the universe.
Exactly. That's the leisure I would like to have.
You and I both.
Yeah.
It would be a tea machine though, because last time I went out and bought a coffee thing, that just spiraled to that went spiraled. The minute I went out and bought a Mr. Coffee, I knew I had a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. If you could tell communities of color one thing, what would it be?
I would say if there's something you want to do not let anyone tell you no. You can ask enough times, you can try enough times, eventually the answer will be yes.
Love it. Absolutely. It's like the amount of no's don't matter. That one yes really sets everything off.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on the Included series. Absolutely loved having you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always great to talk through different industries, right? It's like wine is one that we aren't always represented in. So it's one to really kind of see us shift our dollars and our knowledge around. So thanks again for sharing. And please tell everyone where they can find you and follow you so they can learn more about you and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So check us out at RichWineRVA.com. That's like Richmond Wine, but RichWineRVA.com. And on Instagram, we are at RichWineRVA. So send us a note, holler at us online, or if you need to send us an email, we're info@RichWineRVA.com. So hope to talk to you soon.
Awesome. And thanks so much again, Kristen. Thanks everyone for checking us out and tuning in to another episode of the Included series. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great week and stay safe.
Thank you, you too.